We're gonna do our top 5 albums of the year. Then the first plane struck. We're not doing Tortured Poets. I'm gonna call the cops on your new girlfriend. I be in the mirror when I'm bored. I hit him with that mace in my pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. It's bizarre.
It's bizarre. It's enchanting.
So
it's mystifying. It's crazy.
It's kind of ironic that singing songs about her insecurities and putting it out there got her what she wanted in a way. What?
She's a genius.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
But I'm there.
I clap and I cheer.
Welcome back to the Evolution of a Snake. I'm Zach.
And I am Madeline.
And today we're going to be talking about some of our favorite albums of the year. We were initially trying to do each of our top 5 albums of the year to create the Evolution of a Snake top 10, but Madeline has informed me that in fact everything is a lie and that's not what she's done. So
listen, here's what happened. So we were talking about it. We're like, we're going to do our top 5 albums of the year. Then the first plane struck. We're not doing Tortured Poets. Now, as many of you know, this is a Taylor Swift podcast, and sometimes we do have to cut Taylor out because otherwise she'll just take over. So that was fair. But in this particular year, that kind of messed me up. So then I was like, it would have been either number 1 or number 2. And not having a number 2, I was like, I don't have a number 2 favorite album of the year if Tortured Poets isn't in this list. Because just as important as number 1 is number 2. That's the thing.
You were
3,
reaching.
4, 5 can be
when
anything.
you have to reach. Is it a favorite?
Is it a favorite? Do I love this album? Is this one of my favorite albums that came out this year? I don't have the answer to that question. And my second problem, personally, is just like, there's things that I wouldn't talk about on Evolution of Snake. There's albums that I would have put in this list that I'm not going to talk about on Evolution of Snake because I know you guys don't give a rat's ass. So I just like cut it out, and I was like, okay, now what am I left with?
There you go.
I'm left with a bunch of albums that I liked.
We say that all the other lists are fake, but also our lists are fake. So basically just don't listen to us or take anything we say seriously ever. I too found that removing Tortured Poets was a huge blow to me. And this is a decision that we made ourselves. Like we chose to do this to ourselves. But my issue when Taylor puts out an album, my capacity to get invested in other albums significantly decreases because all I want to listen to when there's a new Taylor album out is Taylor. It's Taylor, Taylor, Taylor. And everything else is, it's second best after that.
Well, the proof is in the pudding.
It literally is.
Look at the minutes. Run the tapes. When you look at the minutes on your Spotify Wrapped or your Apple Music Replay, the amount of minutes, there's something like 15,000 minutes I spent listening to Taylor Swift, and the gap between her and my number 2 is like, she has 15,000 minutes and my number 2 has 2,000.
See,
are you hearing me?
Now it becomes hard to say what your favorite album is. So I kind of viewed this more as an intellectual exercise in like what I think really good albums were that really captured my attention. And I'm also in general actually not really an albums kind of listener. I'm more of a songs and like handful of songs collector. Madeline has a much more diverse music taste than I do. And also I would say dives deep into albums more than I would, especially I think you'll give things a chance a couple of times. You'll be like, I'm going to listen to this over and over and see what I can get through. I can't watch movies.
I do think you're decisive.
So listening to an album that is not good, like if it doesn't jump to me on the first listen, it's over. No. We're done. And that's a character flaw of mine. Before we start talking about our favorite albums of the year, we want to say a big thank you to ZocDoc for sponsoring this episode of Evolution of a Snake. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and so much more.
ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. I've been using ZocDoc for some upcoming yearly health checkups, and it's changing the game.
So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/snake to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/snake, ZocDoc.com/snake. Stay tuned to hear more about ZocDoc later in this episode.
But I don't think it's true that you don't go deep. When you really like something, you're like, I'm in. You go deep.
Yes.
You'll look
That's
into
true.
something oftentimes more than I will. I'm just there like I'm listening
but
to
it
the
takes
tracks.
a lot. It takes a lot for me to get there.
That's
That is
true.
the whole kit and caboodle
Well,
and
he's
the
decisive.
issue and the problem. Yes.
This is a man who knows what he likes.
Means that I have like two albums, I would say, that really got me this year, and that's it. The rest of them are like, I liked this a lot, or I listened to this a lot. And before we really get into it, guys, Evolution of a Snake tour tickets are on sale. Our pre-sale was a disaster. Yes, it was, just like the Eras tour. So the Sneers tour, disaster pre-sale, you need to go and buy your tickets now. There are some shows that are very close to selling out, and if you want to get your tickets, evolutionofsnake.com, go and get them. $35 for general admission. I'm not telling you the VIP price because the VIP tickets are long gone by the time you're listening.
You had a dream, you lost it.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart was glass, I dropped
it's fine
it. What do you want me to say?
Fake it till you make it, till it's true.
True, until you do.
Exactly. Go and get your tickets now, or forever hold your peace. You're not going to want to miss it.
Mm-hmm. Once in a lifetime, just like the Eras tour, incidentally.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's called the Sneers tour. Hello. Madeline, why don't you start? What is your first? Did you do them in order, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
I did, but we don't have to think of them that way if you don't want. My number one is in stone. I will say that.
Yes.
But everything else, we can just talk about them. So this is actually, I think we had talked about this before, and it's like when I had come to the conclusion, I was like, this is not going to be a true reflection of my favorite records of the year. Let's just talk about one of the most interesting albums that I found this year. This is something that came out of the swamp and the woodwork. This is an end of the year diamond in the rough that I actually got introduced to on the Lizard Review. I do a episode every month. It's called Lizard Mail, where you can email me and I will check out your recommendations. And I do find a lot of music that way. So just a brief shout out to the Lizard Nation. This is one of the most amazing things I think I've found this year, which is ironic when you hear who it is. So there's a girl out there. We don't know who she is. We don't know what her real name is. We don't know where she lives. We don't know what she wants from us. We don't know what she wants out of her career. All we know is her name that she likes to be called is Cece Natalie. That is Cece Natalie. And she has taken me by storm. I remember on Lizard Mail I listened to it, and you can hear me be surprised immediately because the music, it was Ambulance that I heard first. That we're talking about before. Hold on, I didn't even say the name of the album. Ladies, this is Misbehave, stylized like MISS and then Behaves. Misbehaves by Cece
with a Lana
Natalie.
Del Rey PixArts album cover.
Yeah. And I think that should be celebrated, and I think that we should be clapping and we should be cheering. She's a genius. She's my muse. She's your silly rabbit. Music. She's my silly rabbit. She's making music I genuinely think, out of her basement or her bedroom. It sounds
she has 3,000 followers on Instagram.
And I'm one of them. I'm one of them. I'm a loyal. I'm literally on Team CC, which, by the way, is one of the best songs on the album. I'm on Team CC.
Team CC.
All the players on Team CC.
I was intrigued by this when Madeline put it on her Instagram story, and I wasn't going to listen to it until she posted the lyrics to Ambulance. Dance on the top of the ambulance. I was like, now what could this possibly be about? And I dove in and I was captivated. I think she is kind of like, if you're looking for a comparison, a mixture of Aisha Erotica, a little bit of Slater, and Addison Rae. There's like something of each of those girls in Cece Natalie, but she is an enigma. She is entirely and completely herself. I personally think that Charli would like to have some of this swag. I can hear Charli picking her up and being like, "Oh, you are it." How do we get her there?
She's a star. That's
put Addison Rae down and pick Cece Natalie up.
You gotta play with a new doll, and her name is Cece Natalie, and she is a doll. What's interesting about Cece Natalie, and we were just talking about this when we talked about the Billboard Top 25 Pop Stars of the 21st Century list, and we were talking about The Weeknd, and we were talking about how it was so cool that he was like one of the most recent, like, enigmatic, mysterious performers. Nobody knew what he looked like for a long time. That is Cece Natalie. We know what she looks like, barely. But everything is black and white. It's like and iMac, like hair in her face. Yeah. And I don't think her real name is Cece Natalie. I'm going to tell you that for free. On the songs, if you look in the credits, She is credited, and then there's somebody credited as a producer who's named Mia Ferrantino. And I'm telling
That
you for
might
free,
be
that's
her.
her. That's her. She
I
is
think that might be
in a
her.
room somewhere alone making some of the most interesting pop music I've heard all year. And I'm telling you the truth.
It's
If
bizarre.
you, it's
It's
bizarre.
bizarre.
It's
It's so
enchanting. It's
strange.
mystifying. It's crazy. She says some of the craziest things on here. Hold on. I wrote down some of her lyrics
I was going to say,
because
you
it's
got to
just
pull up
like
some of the lyrics
some
because they
of the
are
most
mental.
insane
It's
things
very
she's
Brat.
ever said.
Like, if you love Brat, you will love Cece Natalie because Cece Natalie is saying crazier than what's on Brat. Let me tell you that for free.
So she says, "I'm gonna call the cops on your new girlfriend. I be in the mirror when I'm bored. I hit him with that mace in my pocket."
Yep, absolutely.
She calls herself, "I'm back to the real Miss Raunchy in unrestricted psycho mess."
Well, yes.
She's fascinating to me. She's everything to me. She's like, this is who I want to be. This is like,
she has all this lore. Who is she?
Who is she? And that's the thing. It's like when there's lore to be uncovered about somebody, which is, I'm not saying, I did find her Twitter account. It's not like it's private. It's out there if you want to check it out. But she did say that she's a hermit. She's a little bit of a hermit. It's not interesting to her to like all these stars lately, it's like you blow up immediately, and she's like, I'm not really interested in that. She said specifically, like, I want to have like a 5-year slow blow up, and it's like, well, I'm gonna blow you up.
So. Yeah, sorry, girl. We're gonna blow up your spot real fast.
I need you in the studio studio with real. What can you do with that? Because what this is.
The lo-fi stuff is so interesting to me, though. And that's kind of what I really like about it and what I'm drawn to about it is that I think if you added a lot of polish to this, it would run the risk of becoming a little bit more sterile. And that's why the Aisha Erotica comparison is so good to me, because Aisha Erotica was also a woman that did everything herself, and a woman that loved to take pictures of herself on photo booth and disappear and be a recluse, and then had this profound impact on a very specific subset of pop music. Yeah. Cece Natalie is of that ilk. The opening lyrics to Ambulance, I sip my detox tea in a parking lot at the AMC. What?
She's a genius.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
But I'm there.
I clap and I cheer.
I'm sitting next to you. I'm drinking the flat tummy tea. And we're about to go see The Dark Knight Rises. I'm here.
And I'm grinning. She reminds me of a girl that I would have met in middle school who would have been like, she's like the bad influence girl. She smokes cigarettes behind the dumpsters during food periods and stuff like that. She's like the girl that in middle school and in high school, it's like you always want to be that girl. You always want to like be like, I don't really care what people think about me, and I know I'm hot, and I'm also like kind of crazy, and like boys are into that.
But she doesn't have any friends, and she's hanging out with all these weird older guys that she meets online on message boards. They come and pick her up in their broke down cars, and they give her cigarettes. I'm seeing the vision.
The implications of it. That's the thing. The implications of it. And the thing about this record, and I'm not like being any kind of, I'm not lying, I'm not exaggerating. This shit is front to back. I listen to it
so
front to back.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with it. It is literally, I could listen to it over and over again. The thing is, it's like, it's vibesy, but it's also like not just background music, but it can be background music, but it's also like you're paying attention to it. It makes you feel like sexy, but it's also like I'm angry, but also like I'm pensive. She has some like really interesting writing techniques, I think. Like, people aren't writing like this. She's doing something different. And
I'm trying to think of who she reminds me of writing wise, because there is someone, but it's not coming to mind currently. There's a little bit of Kesha in her, because Kesha had that like immediacy, that like casualness, that tone of like, I'm just a girl at a party and I'm talking to you in this song and you're just there with me. Even if you don't know what I'm talking about, like there's a place downtown where the freaks all come around. Well, yes.
And I know that Cece Natalie was plugged in. That's where Cece is. She's at the place downtown where the freaks all come around. It's a hole in the wall, and there's glitter on the floor.
It's a dirty free-for-all. All the players on Team CC want to bite my lips and touch on me.
And I'm on the team. I'm there. The whistles in that song are crazy. That's one of the ones that, like, you could tell, like, with a real producer, like, you could make the song crazy, but it's like, I kind of like it the way it is.
Get her in the stew with Aisha Erotica. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't go to AG Cook. Don't do the Charli thing. Do the
No.
weird DIY pop stuff. I want to hear it.
It's fascinating to me. She's a genius. She's literally, I almost didn't put her in the list at all because I was like, this is so new. Like, literally within the last 2 weeks, we discovered this. And I was like, is this just some weird phase I'm going through? But I don't think it is. I've listened to that album like 10, 15 times, back to back to back to back. It never gets old.
It's really
it's
good.
not getting old to
and
me.
It's a really easy play as well. And when it's over, you're like, again.
She's fascinating.
All right, let's get into my first album of the year. And this is something that should surprise no one except the angels who have deluded themselves into thinking that I'm somehow a Charli op. But BRAT. BRAT is one of my albums of the year. And when I was thinking about including BRAT, I was like, why did I like BRAT? Because I really was not positioned to enjoy this Charli record. And when I was thinking about it, BRAT is getting a lot of praise for being this very experimental thing, especially because of the remix album. But when I was re-listening to it, I was like, BRAT is actually not very experimental on the whole. There are elements of weirdness throughout it, and sometimes the songs take really weird, brief detours. For example, that ending segue of Rewind is really kind of strange. There's like a breakdown. But otherwise, Rewind is a very super straightforward, hooky pop song. That's just what it is. 360 is actually not a weird song at all. Great melody. It's just a little bleep bloop. Even the autotune is not that like pronounced on it. It's just a fun TikTok main character vibe song. Apple, 360, even Von Dutch is kind of, when you get past that like abrasive production, the hook, it's a super hooky song. There are weird moments on it. Of course, Club Classics is weird. Everything is Romantic is weird. But I think that Charli now is at the peak of straddling the balance, which is what made this appealing to me. Crash felt very vacuous and overproduced. How I'm feeling now, I know that was the point. Everybody loves to say that, but it still feels overproduced to me. How I'm feeling now was very off-putting to me as someone who is a pretty centrist pop enjoyer. I can do a little detour, but I'm not super into that hyper pop space. It's not for me. So BRAT being an easy listen all the way through was very surprising to me, though I do skip some of the ballads. It's also just so much fun. BRAT is good, clean fun. Do you remember when you contracted a mysterious disease from the rodeo before the EOAS tour in Seattle?
I sure do. I went out on the 4th of July week and I hung out with a bunch of cowboys, got a little spooky out at the bars, and within 3 days I had come down with a mysterious illness. I went to about 3 different doctors all around town, and nobody could identify this strange illness that I had come down with, and I started to call it Cowboy 19, because of course I was infected by a cowboy. Finally, after many trials and tribulations and many different horse doctors, I finally found a doctor who just so happened to be a swiftie who diagnosed me with tonsillitis. Now, if only back then there had been a way to find an in-network doctor that was also a swiftie online. That would have saved me from the horse doctors.
Well, everything would have been different for you, Madeline, in this trial that you had if you had ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment.
We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and much more.
You can filter doctors, unfortunately not for if they're a swiftie or not, but doctors who take your insurance, who are located nearby, who are a good fit for any medical need you may have, and who are also highly rated by verified patients.
And the best part about it all, which would have addressed my Cowboy 19 affliction sooner, is that ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. I have been using ZocDoc for some upcoming yearly health checkups I've been putting off for forever, and it's changing the game. It's getting my ass in gear to take care of myself without the hellacious, endless internet searches.
So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/snake to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/snake. ZocDoc.com/snake.
Well, what's really fun about BRAT, and I know that everybody knows this because everybody's been going to parties and like hitting out the club, going to the bar, whatever you're doing, you go to the bowling alley, you have fun. But you turn a BRAT song on, it's a crowd pleaser. People want to hear it. If you're hanging out with your girls, they're saying it's a BRAT summer. I want to hear BRAT. It's so much fun. I remember when I was it was a party at the beginning of the summer. So like right after BRAT had come out, and Von Dutch came. I was out back at the smoker section, like, yay, you know, like doing this. I was drunk and I heard it's okay to just admit. And I was like, I was
Activated.
in there on that dance floor in a second. That is, by the way, they won't admit it. There's haters out there and they won't say it. Von Dutch, top 3 on BRAT, and that's law. Von Dutch is
She's
one of the best
saying that.
songs in the world. It's literally the greatest song ever made.
It is. It's really, really good. And it's so Charli as well. It's really like a quintessential Charli song. And it is what BRAT is about, I think. The entire song is just like a really good distillation of what that album does. And I think also something about pop music that we've noticed this year is a return to enjoyability. We've been trapped in the deep, dark basements of moody pop for years on end. And this is just something different to that. And it's like, it's not self-serious. When I go to the club, I want to dance to me. Same. TikTok main character syndrome run amok. Many people want to dance to themselves at the club. And I think the fact also that she was able to so radically reinvent these songs shows that they are deceptively more simple than they seem. Right? Because there's so much to do with them because they are fairly straightforward. But again, there are more like deep and introspective moments here on this record as well, which are interesting, that explore Charli's psyche. Which is about her relationship with Sophie. And I think about it all the time. Obviously, that's a great song that is about, does she want to have children? Like, does she want to conform to societal expectations of womanhood? There are interesting little detours. It's like all being at a house party and going into different rooms. You go into the bathroom for a sec, you look in the mirror. Some of those songs are really about that. We also have Sympathy as a Knife. There's that meta commentary on being a famous person and her frankness in discussing her place in the industry. I mean, it's kind of ironic that singing songs about her insecurities and putting it out there got her what she wanted in a way. There's something strange about that. But I've always found that lyrically, the most interesting song on BRAT is Rewind, because of the way that it goes through her journey and her considering, you know, I want to go back to a simple time. There's that theory that like every famous person gets stuck at the age they became famous. And the moment that Charli like zooms in on here is, I was burning CDs in my room. And I immediately thought about Taylor. Like what's the comparison to Taylor here? And what was Taylor doing? Where did she get stuck? Taylor was writing songs and playing guitar in her room. And it's interesting when we look at Charli's was burning CDs. That was such an indication of the kind of artist that she would become. She's not a singer-songwriter. That's really not her thing. She's a curator, a producer. She writes, of course, but she's not diaristic and confessional in that way. And I think that is what is so strong about Charli. And I think it took a while for like the tastes of mainstream pop to catch up to her.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's really interesting to compare Taylor and Charli and like thinking about them as broad concepts. If we think about Taylor as she is the singer-songwriter girly, and then if we think about Charli as the hyper pop, she's a lyricist, but she's a different kind of lyricist. She's definitely a songwriter, but not in the same ilk that Taylor is. And to kind of like compare them in that way, and to kind of like take a moment to realize that like there's really merit to the way both of these women create and produce music that is completely different, and it's apples and oranges, but it's both of them are making some of the most interesting pop music, and it's pop music that has captivated people and is interesting to people. And I just think that it's so like fascinating to think about all of the pop girls. Some of them you could kind of like interchange, but if you think about the big ones, you're thinking about Taylor, you're thinking about Charli, you're thinking about Chappell Roan, you're even thinking about Sabrina this year. It's like all of them feel like they have their own identities and their own personalities, and it's really cool right now in pop to have this whole spectrum of like Taylor as like the singer-songwriter girly, and then you also have Charli, and like how different they are, but how much they both belong in the moment and in the zeitgeist right now.
And Sympathy as a Knife is a good expression of that. As Charli says, I couldn't even be her if I tried. And I think BRAT is her realizing that like, oh, I need to lean into that. I need to stop trying. Like I can't replicate that. That's not my bag. I'm really good at something else. And this is actually what I'm really good at. And a lot of BRAT, I think, is about her getting over herself, clearing hurdles that she's created for herself in her mind. She's like, I can never be this big. I can try. Or in her head, I think she's always had this thing where I can if I really wanted to, I can. And it was almost like a point of pride. It was like, well, I'm just not trying. Therefore, like if I don't try and I fail, it's fine because I'm not trying. Whereas this to me felt very much more like, okay, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to shed that skin and I'm just going to be as honest as I possibly can be and say all the stuff that I haven't wanted to say because I've been too ashamed or I've been too trapped in the rat race of the industry. I wish I didn't care about Billboard, etc. And, we have to clap and cheer. So that is why BRAT is one of my most listened to albums of the year.
Period. And I would totally agree. BRAT was almost on my list. I almost put
Mhm.
it on there. But then it's like,
Well, I got it. I took it.
we had the opportunity to talk about it anyway. And it's like, say what you want. You really can't talk about the year 2024 of music without talking about BRAT. So,
Right.
I mean,
You
there
can't.
you go. All right, let's get into another one of mine. Now, this will come as no surprise, excuse me. This will come as no surprise to anybody out there listening. We're talking about The Great Impersonator by Halsey. Yeah, I said it. And I'm not scared to say it. Not everyone got it. Thank God I did. Thank God I did. There are people out there, we won't name names. They were men, MEN men, who didn't understand The Great Impersonator. But guess what? I did. I think we did. I think me, Zach, and the people watching this right now understood The Great Impersonator. Even if it isn't like one of your top albums of the year, you have to confess, like, I think it's one of the most interesting albums. I think it had one of the most interesting and like compelling rollouts as well, which was a huge thing this year. Like, how are you rolling your album out? Maybe some of it was clowned on, but you were talking about it, weren't you? You see how that works?
It was one of the most ambitious projects of the year, musically as well. It was extremely ambitious.
What I really liked about it is the fact that she fully committed to the bit. She knew the bit was insane. That's the thing. Like, you think she doesn't know that this is absolutely ridiculous? But the thing about Halsey is that commitment is her middle name. She's not going to do something and half it. If she's going to make a concept album, she will make the concept album. When she's in her bag, I'm talking about Badlands. I'm talking about If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. I'm talking about The Great Impersonator. When she's in the bag is secured. Like, she's taking it. It's not the kind of album, I will admit, that I'm listening to all the time. I'm listening to my favorites. I'm listening to Ego. I'm playing Ego morning, noon, night, weddings, graduations,
Loneliest
funerals,
the Muse,
clubs,
birthdays.
Loneliest Muse. Every day of my life. I'm listening to Alice of the Upper Class, which I don't even know why that's a bonus track. It's one of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, really a shocking omission.
I'm obsessed with Alice of the Upper Class. It is so good. But I think the thing that people really struggled with The Great Impersonator is that even in this time where it's like, BRAT is so successful because of the vulnerability and like because of the honesty and because of these like kind of like cringy moments of being like a little bit too honest. So it's surprising to me that people were just not ready for the full tilt, I'm showing you everything, total heart on my sleeve vulnerability album like The Great Impersonator. And people misreading it as this whole moment of like, feel so bad for me. I'm the biggest martyr in the world. Nobody suffers as much as I do. When it's like, Halsey has been creating art just like any other artist in an attempt to relate to others. Has anybody else ever felt this way? And the answer is always yes. Has anybody else ever felt like they're a great impersonator? And the answer is yes. It's not, it's only me and I suffer alone and nobody can ever understand me. It's, I know people can understand it. That's why I'm putting it out into the world. And like, that's so clear to me when you listen to it. And like, even using this like motif of relating to other artists and connecting her art to other people's art, it's like, how is this going so over your head that you really think she's that like vapid and like that selfish?
Halsey is like a victim of meme culture in a way that I think is so destructive and upsetting to her artistry, because it seems like a couple years ago, people really just decided that Halsey was cringe. And once you are labeled as cringe, it is really, really difficult to conquer that. And when you are being sincere, that is like prime material for cringe allegations and accusations. And you bring up a great point in that Charli is allowed to be really sincere and she is allowed to, slit her wrists and bleed all over her album. But when Halsey does it in a way that is so much more raw and uncomfortable and revealing. It's too much. Halsey is always getting the too much allegations. It's your feelings are too big, your feelings are too myopic, your experience is too singular, nobody cares. And I resent the way that anything she puts out is just met with this. I don't even know what word to describe it. It's disingenuous and it's also like a bias. And I hate to use the word bias because that's what Stans always say. But Halsey is not a fave of mine. I respect her. There are some of her albums that I really enjoy, but I'm not, a Halsey nader the way that Madeline is. But even I was really shocked by the response to this record when it came out because it felt so uncharitable. And also, like, people just didn't listen. And I'm wondering, is it because this album is long and it's rambling and it's takes so many different turns? BRAT is really easy to digest. It's easy to understand. Halsey is demanding. I mean, from the first song, "Only Living Girl in LA," 6 minutes long. She's
You
saying,
better sit down. You better sit down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting. I was wearing this t-shirt. I didn't even realize that. This is the shirt that I was wearing when I listened to The Great Impersonator for the first time. Hello, Jaws, yes. So I was sitting down and I listened to it. And I do think that there's an element of people just like maybe listen to the first 3 songs and we're like, I don't really care. And it's like, okay, you can do that. You don't have to listen to everything. Believe me, I get it. But like, you better shut your mouth then. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not going to really give it the fair shake, then how about you just, like, leave her the alone? Have you
Just
ever
don't say
considered that?
anything.
Just
You
don't
don't
say
have anything
anything.
nice to say.
Because
Don't
these,
say
like,
anything at all.
mean little comments. I mean, I don't want to
critique is fair. There's stuff to critique on this album for sure because it goes in so many different directions. But it's the critiques that I read were not critiques. They were like takedowns. They were intended to say the album is bad. They were not intended to like grapple with what was being raised as subject matter on the record.
And it also just kind of felt like everybody was approaching it, people who were being negative about it specifically, were approaching it within the context of this is a Halsey album, which is like, that's not always the best way to go. Especially when this is an album that I genuinely think is different than anything else that Halsey has ever made. I think that going into it was like, this is another one of Halsey's ridiculous albums. Like, you were never going to give it a fair shake. You were never going to be able to really see it for what it was because you went into it with a preconceived notion.
I Never Loved You, by the way. Smash hit. That's gone number 1 in my house.
I'm listening to, I already told you, Ego.
Hurt Feelings.
Arsonist. That's one of the craziest songs in the discography.
Yeah, Arsonist
the thing
is
about
crazy.
Arsonist is that it's not the kind of song that you just listen to.
I can't.
It's weird. It's creepy, but like the writing is like probably some of the best of her entire career. Like she was on that. She came on that mad as hell. She was ready.
And she executed it to perfection.
Oh, perfectly executed song. Love.
I think the rollout definitely didn't help this perception. The single selections, like starting it with Lucky was like truly a bad decision. Bad decision. We should have been starting this record cycle with Lonely Is the Muse. That's how we should have started it because everything would be different if you viewed it through that lens.
And the thing is that like people who I've seen, people who have no opinion on Halsey have heard Lonely Is the Muse and been like really surprised by it. It's like, well, she doesn't really generally make music like that. And it's like, yes, she does. That's the thing.
Yes, she does. You don't even know this. Don't listen. You don't even know this. Don't listen.
This is like one of the most Halsey songs on the record.
That's Halsey 101.
Yeah, that's Halsey 101. Come on, Lonely Is the Muse. Where have you been?
And that song gags me to this day. The vocal performance on that, the production, the way it builds. Oh, one of the songs of the year.
Songs of the year. Bar none. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
No.
Nope.
Get over it.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to my next album, which is, now I did kind of cheat because 2 of these albums came out in 2023. But again, I struggled to listen to things all the way through and I had to go with what I was actually listening to. And in my defense, they came out at the end of 2023. So Short and Sweet is not on this list, by the way, because we had a little discussion about this. I've picked out a couple of songs, but as an album, I don't have much to say about it. Other albums I have more to say about. So Leve, and if you don't know who she is an Icelandic jazz pop girly who I actually found through the Lizard Review, which is where I get all of my music recommendations, by the way. Madeline sobbed her eyes out to a song called Letter to My 13-Year-Old Self. And then I sobbed my eyes out to it while listening to Madeline sob her eyes out to it. And I was like, now I need to get into this. I need to see what this is. And, as much as I enjoyed the artifice, the pomp and circumstance of Brat, what really drew me to Leve she was a brand new artist to me. Okay, brand new artist. I discovered it this year. Was the live instrument, the raw talent of her. I am instantly soothed by the timbre of her voice. She's unique in that she has this like jazz hotel singer tone, but her technical proficiency isn't like a hindrance to her having a personality. She's super funny. She's like really funny at many points throughout this record. Can't take another lifeless little chat, she says on Dreamer, which is like a very like old fashioned kind of song, but she has these interjections of like contemporary life modernity that are interesting. And you know what I've missed on records? Diction. I've really missed being able to understand what someone is saying. I was trying to get through that Rachel Chinariri record, and I was like, girl, I really want to get into this, but I have no idea what you're saying.
Out of it. You don't say that. Rachel Chinariri,
I like the
music,
music,
you're watching,
but I don't know what she's saying.
I'll give you that. Her being from the UK also does not help.
Well, it doesn't help.
We got an accent,
and
we got an accent.
I can't. And Pink Panthers is the same to me. I'm like, this sounds good. What the hell are you saying? What are you saying?
All right,
but see, I don't have this problem with Flo, who we'll talk about later. I don't have this problem with them. It's like it's an indie drawl thing. I think that is difficult to get.
I think definitely like with Flo, we'll get into this, and with Leve.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
There's so much of a discipline to the vocalizations.
Yes,
when you really
purposeful.
learn how to sing, you learn how to dictate. And you can tell Leve has learned how to use her vocals to the best of her ability. And baby, there's never a moment where I don't know what she's talking about. I'm tuned in. I'm saying, oh yeah, tell me more. Tell me more. Mm-hmm.
She's
I understand
unbelievably talented. Every live performance of hers that I've seen has gagged me to my core. Yeah. She plays so many instruments. I saw her in concert this year. She was incredible. But her vocal stylings are very clearly influenced by the greats, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra. People just don't take the time to sing like this anymore, I feel, especially not on the radio. And there's a clarity to her instrument that is so timeless. It's nostalgic and it's old-fashioned, but it doesn't feel like it's from another era. It gives me, this is not a one-to-one comparison, but it gives me Amy Winehouse in that sense where it's like, what is so appealing about you is how otherworldly or like other time you are, but also how it feels so present and relevant now.
Yes.
And regardless of the fact that no one in the pop sphere is doing this, she's also huge. I didn't realize that Leve is like doing numbers on streaming in comparison to Gwen Stefani's Bouquet, which I checked out. And some of those songs have barely cracked 100,000 streams.
And I was one of them. And I was in those streams.
For
the
whatever
laugh.
Reason.
For the bit.
For whatever reason.
For the bit.
But also, this is Leve's sophomore record. And I listened to the first one, and it did not grip me in the way that Bewitched did. Bewitched, this is the record I'm talking about, is incredible. Sophomore slump, who? There is something very airy and elegant about the standard edition, which is complicated by the Goddess edition, featuring one of her very best songs, Goddess, which has this like darker side, this brooding, seething anger that I didn't think was possible to come through in the kind of music that she does, which really just proved to me that she's really multidimensional and super talented. I think it's easy to like get typecast as an artist that does one kind of thing when you're in like a specific genre pop like this. That definitely happened to Madeline's noted favorite artist, Norah Jones. She wasn't really ever able to recover from the lounge singer allegations.
And nor should she be able to. You will stay in those lounges and you will stay far away from me. You understand me?
And Leve will sell out arenas.
Yes.
But there's also something very delusional about Leve's writing. A lot of it has this vibe of Enchanted. Like, it is a ridiculous, overwrought, hysterical response to a chance encounter. That is the energy that Leve brings to the function. I can't quite believe that you think I'm beautiful. Must be a trick, a tag, and you're it. Kind of foolery. Then you take my hand, kiss me on the cheek, a light pink bouquet, a promise you'll stay, and I start to believe. I don't recognize myself. I'm writing a love song. Who have I become? There must be something wrong. I trace it all back, 3:30 a.m. That night something turned in my heart. While you were sleeping, I fell in love.
No, she's crazy. That's the thing. She's a dreamer.
She's a dreamer.
I'm a dreamer.
Also, and no boy is going to kill the dreamer in me. No boy is going to do it.
I love
and
that.
I love that
my favorite
about
songs.
her. Also, the orchestral arrangements on this record are insane. California and Me is a
Oh,
particular
so
highlight to me.
beautiful.
So stunning. And from the start, maybe her breakout hit. I would say that probably is her
Greatest song
breakout
ever made.
hit. But
Greatest song ever
Lovesick
made.
to me, that's her breakout hit. That's a breakout
Regina.
hit to me.
Well, this is the thing I love about Leve, like having her, and I think that this is what a lot of the kids, the Gen Zs, are like attracted to in her. You put Leve in your library, and you're a pop listener. Let's just say you don't have anything else like her. She's singular.
Oh no,
And
I
when
don't
you
have
want to listen
anything
to
like her.
Leve, you want to listen to Leve. And I think
Yep.
that's what makes her so interesting. Again, going back to our conversation about how there's so many interesting things happening in female pop right now. Leve is another one. She's doing something just completely off the books. And I think we
No
should
one is
clap and
doing
we
it
should
like
cheer for
her.
it. Nobody is doing like her.
And the girls are responding. The little girls are responding. Like,
Mhm.
I was so touched by the crowd at her concert. And it really proved to me, I was like, okay, she's doing something that we need because no one else is doing this.
Exactly. And she's doing it with aplomb, may I add. And she's doing it
Flowers to
gorgina.
Leve.
Flowers to Leve. Genius.
Brava.
Never been done before.
Album of the
Queen.
year.
Album of the year. Bewitched. Can you do your
You bewitch me. Every
when he did it, one time he did it, and it was like a Kermit the Frog moment, but it was like, and it still sounds like Leve. Much to think
I love that
about.
song too.
Yeah,
love that song.
Love that song. So good. Leve, a queenie. Speaking of
Queenie.
diction, speaking of diction, we have to get into one of my favorite albums of the year, which is Access All Areas by Flo. This is one of the
Divas.
The divas that they are. The See You Next Tuesday that was served on this record has never been seen before.
It scared people.
It scared people. I was afraid.
Mhm.
I was terrified. I waited for this record. I waited and I waited. I was out there. I had my lamp on. My
You were
porch
scared
light
it
was
wasn't
left
going to
on.
come.
I was scared. I was like, if the label's gonna shelve them. I literally said that. I was like, they're gonna get shelved. It's over.
Mhm.
It's over. We're never gonna see them. But thank God, November 11th, something happened. Something struck the earth. A meteor struck the earth, and it was named Flo. 3 amazing ladies from the UK who have changed the game forever. If you're not familiar with them, they are a incredibly referential R&B Y2K inspired girl group. There's the kind of like SWV, kind of like Destiny's Child, kind of like TLC. Ever heard of it? Have you ever heard of these
Mhm.
amazing women before? Well, now you have. And what I like the most about them right now is that we're in a time of reverential. We're in a time of nostalgic music. We're in a time of Y2K. And I think they cooked up like a particular sauce that we really needed to be pouring on the playlist. We're dipping our playlist in this Flo sauce. I'm personally enjoying the hell out of it. Is this the perfect album that I'm listening to front to back? It has a little bit of fat on it that I would personally trim, but there is like a good 11, 12 songs on there that are like perfection, absolute perfection. The track run, what is that track run where it goes like triple A, it goes triple A, and then it goes In My Bag, To Walk Like This, to How Does It Feel, to Soft, to Check, Not a Skip in Sight. I could listen to that
Not
all
a
the
skip
time.
in sight.
Not a single skip in sight. And there's just been a real hole in music, especially in female pop music. Where are the girl groups? We lost
Where are
Fifth
they?
Harmony. We lost them.
We didn't need them to
very
begin
soon.
with, but we lost them.
very soon. We lost Little Mix. Hello, Little Mix.
That's a miss.
No, that's a miss.
And you know
so
what?
now,
I was pleased to see that legendary Little Mix noted producer was all over this record. MNEK. He is a legend.
I didn't
he
know
is
he
an
worked with Little
icon.
Mix.
He is the moment. He worked with Little Mix all the time. And yeah, I was, because I listened to this record for the first time after Madeline suggested it to me. I'd listened to a couple of Flo songs here and there. I was so surprised by the attention to detail, by the excellence, by the vocal delivery. I noticed at some points that I couldn't really differentiate like who was the lead singer or even who was singing. It was like they sing as one entity, and we have been needing that.
It's amazing. The harmonizations, like if I could say one thing about them, that is like their thing, it is those harmonies. I've never heard, not even, I'm going to say it, from Destiny's Child, have I heard these kinds of harmonies. They are flawless. The layering, it's like heavenly. The way that their voices come together so naturally into just like one, and then they do like their ad libs are crazy. And it's like you have to listen to it with headphones. I've tried to listen to it on speaker. I can't. I need
But
it
they're not
in my
competing with each
eardrums.
other. That's, I think, where
No.
you're picking up the difference with Destiny's Child, is that Destiny's Child was Beyonce and the backup singers. That was the purpose of Destiny's Child. They were all talented vocalists in their own right, and they had gorgeous moments of harmonies. But let's be clear, the purpose of Destiny's Child, created by Matthew Knowles, was to make Beyonce a superstar. Flow is about a project. It's not about one singer. It's not about one girl. It is about getting everything together. And I think, Madeline, you might not be as familiar with them because they're from the UK, but I really get a lot of Sugar Babes energy from a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of this. The early Sugar Babe stuff, this is really, really similar to that. Overload, that kind of attention to vocal delivery and harmony. It's very reminiscent of that. And I
It's just,
imagine they would be a huge influence on Flow
well,
because they're
yes.
from
Well,
the
they're in the
UK.
intro. They're in the intro.
Mhm. Oh, they
Cynthia
are.
Erivo, she says, Sugar Babes, ever heard of it? And I said, I'm not as familiar as you, Cynthia, but I am
But
not
I
as
know.
familiar as you because I haven't been doing the education on UK pop
Mhm.
music. My knowledge on UK pop pretty much goes Spice Girls, Little Mix,
And Little
and
Mix is a new
Silence.
addition.
And
Little Mix is a
I
new
was not, yeah,
addition.
Little Mix is a new addition. Well, I've never really been into bands like that. Not since I was in my Y2K era, like literally when I was in Y2K. So
Right.
I kind of lost my touch on that. I was never into 1D. I was never into Fifth Harmony. Like that's kind of something that always went over my head. So this is kind of like Flow is my first time really getting into something. Well, Blackpink, but Blackpink feels different
Well,
to me. But
Blackpink is different. And also their producer, MNEK, did your absolute favorite Little Mix songs. Wasabi, heard of it,
did he
heard
do
of it.
Joan of Arc?
He did not do Joan of Arc, but he did do
Well,
Touch, which is one of the greatest songs ever made.
One of the greatest songs ever made. Wasabi is a delicious track.
It is.
I'll have you all know.
On this record, I think this song, what was the song that really killed me? Walk Like This is crazy. Walk Like This is crazy. And the video is crazy.
Why is it not
And
number
how
one?
does it feel? It's crazy too.
How does it feel is crazy. Nocturnal, I'll say it. One of the craziest songs on the record.
I was thinking, why is this not popping off? Is it popping off in the UK? Do we know that?
I don't have that information. I can tell you that I'm not seeing them I know that they're touring. I can't go on the tour because you know what I'm doing while they're touring in areas I could be in? Evolution of a Snake. So,
Well,
I could be at Flow.
Let's be their opening act.
I could. I say, Flo, let me get you on the phone. Can we please come in and do shadow puppets before the show? Please, Flo, please let us in. I love them. I think this album is super delicious, pop perfection. I love to listen to it as I'm putting my makeup on. It's one of those kinds of albums. It's like,
oh, it's a getting ready album.
It is a
getting ready album.
I'm feeling good about myself. I'm feeling hot. I'm feeling like I'm gonna stunt on them, and that's.
I'm
what
not in a chaotic mood. BRAT is like, I'm gonna go out and get really drunk and steal a stop sign.
Yeah.
Access All Areas is, I'm gonna go out to a gorgeous fancy dinner.
Have my martini,
cocktails,
my peppermintini, please. I love you, Flo.
Love that. Well, thank you, Flo. Let's do a hard shift and talk about Mitski. A hard shift.
A hard pivot.
So this was definitely one of my albums of the year because I am most inclined to listen to an album when I'm reading. And I like to put an album that is not super, like I couldn't do Access All Areas. I'd be wanting to shake. It can't be that. Cece Natalie cannot be the background music. Yeah. It's got to be Leve, and The Land is Inhospitable, and So Are We, which is Mitski's latest effort that came out, I want to say September of last year.
Yes.
But this is a really, really compelling and interesting follow-up to Laurel Hell because it couldn't be more different. And I loved Laurel Hell. It reminds me, how she handled it kind of reminded me of Lana's response to Norman Rockwell when she put out Chemtrails after. It was like, we're not going to be able to recapture the specific thing that we did on that record. So we need to get a little weirder. We need to do something a little stranger. I also don't like all this attention. I would like to tone it down for a minute. And I think that sort of music as well opened, like Laurel Hell, etc., opened Mitski up to a newer fan base even than what Be the Cowboy did. And as we know, Mitski doesn't want that. She hates it. It makes her want to quit. She's not interested in being a pop star. She doesn't like to be abstracted. See Working for the Knife for an example of this. She was really in her, I'm going to retire after this record. She was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. But this album to me is so human. And it's so heartbreaking and like all encompassing. It's about the world. It's about America, she says. It's very elegant. And one reviewer put it that she was like a love haunting the land. And I was like, that is so interesting. So here's a quote from the Dead Oceans interview that really stuck with me. Sometimes Mitski says it feels like her life would be easier without hope, a soul, or love. But when she closes her eyes and thinks about what's truly hers, what can't be repossessed or demolishes, she sees loves. The best thing I ever did in my life was to love people, Mitski says. I wish I could leave behind all the love I have after I die so that I can shine all this goodness, all this good love that I've created onto other people. She hopes her newest album, The Land is Inhospitable and So Are We, fantastic name, by the way, will continue to shine that love long after she's gone. Listening to it, that's precisely how it feels, like a love that's haunting the land.
Wow.
Good quote, huh?
Mitski, you've done it again.
You've
You're
done it.
raising the bar for us all, etc.
She has done it
etc.
again.
She has done it again. I kind of appreciate The Land is Inhospitable and So Are We in terms of the Mitski discography. That's what I like it in context of her other work, and I like to think of it as its own kind of like chapter of the Mitski. I don't even know if I would call it a book. That's the thing. The development, yeah. It's one of her most interesting albums, which is coming from a woman who's constantly making interesting albums. That's really saying something. I also love Laurel Hell. I love Be the Cowboy. I loved her EPs, etc., etc. But there's something about this one, and it reminds me so much. And I said this back in the day when I was first listening to it. It reminds me so much of where I live. It's so much like an album about the American West that like sometimes when I listen to it, it's all I can think about is like all these places that are here. I'm tearing up, man. I'm tearing
it's
up,
natural.
Man. Here we go.
No, there's a very natural and environmental thing about it. It's really hard to explain. It's about your connection as a person to your environment. It's about being a person of the world, which is something that we like completely forget. And I imagine is very confrontational living somewhere like Montana, where the nature is just so dramatic and it's like a main character all the time.
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, where I live specifically in my town, it's one of the windiest places in America. So the wind is like a character in my life. Like it's something that I have to contend with like literally all the time, and it like rules my days.
Pathetic fallacy.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to think about something like that, and to have an album that reminds me of like where I am. I don't really get that a lot. Like, what does BRAT sound like to you? It doesn't really sound like.
It sounds like the meatpacking district in New York City. It does not sound like a place.
And that's that's where some people live. It's not where I live.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like when I think about this album, that's what I think about. And when I want to listen to it, it's when I'm feeling like I really like it here. So I'm like, let me spin The Land is Inhospitable and So Are We, which is interesting, but it's true.
Yeah. It gives me a lot of special moments too. Like I feel like I'm tapping into a spiritual side of myself when I listen to this album in a strange way. And, you know, I live in a completely different place to you, Madeline, but Singapore is like a super ecologically complex biodynamic environment. It's the tropics. We're 1 degree away from the equator. It's like disgustingly 98% humidity all the time. We have no seasons. We have these like violent, vicious rainstorms and the highest ground strike lightning in the world. Like it's a very tough natural environment that a city has just been like plonked in the middle of. So I feel very connected to what she talks about with nature and like with the natural world, because I feel like I'm always, you know, as a city person that lives in a place that's really not supposed to be a city, you're kind of coming up against that all the time. It's like the human fighting against the environment. And I think what feels so true about this record is that in a world that's like cruel and increasingly consumerist, like everything is about buying something, including music. Like it's all, we're just like dead-eyed and detached from humanity and on our phones. We're grocery shopping with robots. I find myself returning to this thought a lot when I'm feeling overwhelmed by modernity. Like all I have is this love to give, and that's what I want to leave behind. I think we hear this most gorgeously on My Love Is Mine All Mine. Kind of hate that song went viral because it's so special, but to love is like a radical act. It's a commitment to community, to like fostering ties with people in a way that goes beyond like what you get from them. It's like it's giving with not wanting in return. And this song is addressed to the moon. And can I just say that I am always in commune with the moon. Whenever I see the moon, I like stop, I look up, and I feel her. I feel her presence
She's
and
there.
her power and her Luna. Luna, I'm
La
getting, she's
Luna.
doing something for me. And the lyrics here, it's like I'm always looking at the moon to try and understand something, or I feel like it's trying to communicate something to me. She says, "Moon, here before and after me," in this haunting tone. But it's a comfort to her that like the whole world exists and will continue to exist long beyond when she's here or there. And her love is the thing that was there before her and will stay after her. Nothing in this world belongs to me, but my love is mine, all mine. And I can like literally picture her like Lord style, kind of like clutching herself in liability, you know, like dancing with yourself and being like, this is me. This is what I got to do. Moon, tell me if I could send up my heart to you. So when I die, which I must do, could it shine down here with you? Girls.
It's no comment for me. If we get too much into this, I'm gonna start crying. I can't. I can't comment.
Profound. The record is profound. That's
the record
that's
is
what I'm
profound,
getting at.
and I do agree with you. Like it is kind of like a wah wah that it became like a TikTok meme. Not a meme. Meme isn't what I mean, but like a TikTok trend. Because I feel like on the one hand, there is this moment of like it's been stripped of its like true profundity, but then on the other hand, it's like
it's connecting with people.
When you saw all these TikToks of like, here I go, of like things that people love, and it's like the point of the song. So it's like on the one hand, on the other,
purer way for Mitski to go viral in a sense.
Yeah.
One last song I want to talk about. I'm Your Man. Oh wow, career highlight. New I Bet on Losing Dogs breakdown hour contender. If you don't know, when Madeline and I are really going through something, you might have seen us back in the day when I was on Twitter, Madeline still is, tweet either the lyrics to I Bet on Losing Dogs or Happiness is a Butterfly. One of the two. It's either I Bet on Losing Dogs or if he's a serial killer, then what's the worst that can happen to a girl that's already hurt. And you know that something's happening. Something's going on in our brains. And with this one, it's You're an Angel, I'm a Dog. You believe me like a god. I betray you like a man. This is the paradox of love being the only thing that is truly yours. You can't hold on to it forever because it is a radical act. It's difficult to maintain all the time. It's an imperfect ideal. You can't be like firing on all cylinders. Love, love, love. It's not like that. Love is difficult to do. Sometimes in the face of someone else's love, you betray them. And the barking at the end of this song sends me every damn time. And I never skip it. I listen to it all the way through to the very last bark.
That's something that I really appreciate about Mitski. Again, same thing with any artist who's like, I'm doing the thing and I'm gonna commit. Mitski commits. It's kind of like my least favorite song from the record, When Memories Snow. It's like, okay, I get it, and I'm gonna let you cook because I don't want to listen to it, but I appreciate what you're doing, and I really appreciate the commitment to the art and the creativity to be like, this is how I thought of it. It's insane. I'm gonna do it because it feels the most true and the most like organic to do it this way.
And I love how like her soundscaping is always just so interesting. Like the song Star sounds like a star zooming towards you from the sky. It's weird.
Yeah. She's in different areas. She's in different areas.
Mitski.
Thank you,
Mitski
Aguilera. Thank you, Mitski Aguilera. Thank you.
Up next.
Right, so I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to skip ahead because I just know that I don't have time to do two more. So I'm skipping ahead to the diva. I'm skipping ahead to the diva. I'm skipping ahead to the queen. So as many of you remember at the top of the episode, we were talking about how this is all lies. And we were going to do like our top 5 albums of the year, and that just wasn't coming to fruition. And it's like, none of these are ordered. It's not really like that. This is in order. This is top of the hour. Number 1, greatest album ever made. I'm talking about this is an EP. That's a fucked up thing, but it's an album to me. It is the Sunday 1994 debut EP. I can't even say record. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in the history of my life. So here's what happened. So I was into this game called Music League for a while. I haven't been able to play it recently because I've been so busy. It takes a lot of your time. Actually,
it's a daily commitment.
It's a daily commitment, and I just I've lost a lot of my commitments, girls, and many of you know what those are. Many of you know what those are, but that's neither here nor there. So when I was playing Music League, we were doing this league that was called Taylor Coded. Go through every single Taylor album from debut forward and be like, okay, submit songs by other artists that sound like they could be on debut. However you want to think of it. Do the lyrics sound like something that could be on debut? Productionally, is it a very country song? Is it a song that sounds like it was a Jack Antonoff song? You know, just like anything that reminds you of that Taylor record. And somebody, I don't remember who now, although I do owe them a debt of gratitude and I owe them my life, on the Midnight's Coded round, which is a very interesting round.
Yeah, I wouldn't have
Midnight's
put
Coded was
this on that.
fascinating.
Interesting.
You're not seeing the vision. Yeah, so you see how he's not seeing the vision? Do you see
I'm not
that?
seeing the
You see
vision.
how that works? So they put Blonde on
I love that
the
song.
Midnight's Coded playlist. And whether it's Midnight's Coded or not, we don't even have to get into that. What we have to get into is that I had the same reaction as I have. It's like a Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. Something is said, and I'm like, what's going on? What is this?
Over.
What's happening? Same thing with Cece Natalie. It's like, what is this? Like, this is something else. I heard Blonde, and I knew that I was being touched by an angel. And then I went and I listened to the whole EP, and I was like, why do you only have one EP out? But it's the greatest EP that's ever been made. It's self-titled. It's called Sunday 1994. For those of you who are wondering, as I was, what the hell does Sunday 1994 mean? It's stylized like a movie title because they're very much into cinema. They are cinephiles. And they are very much into movies. They are very much into visuals. And you can
who are
hear
these people?
that.
Give us a primer. Who are they? There's a girlie. She's the singer.
Her name is Paige, and she's the queen of the universe, and I would do anything for her. It's worth it to note, I have personally interacted.
Oh, they love the
Paige.
Lizard review.
No,
They
do.
listened to the Lizard review.
It's worth it to note, I did do a whole deep dive on them, completely free of any strings. I just did it because I wanted to. I never in a million years thought that they would listen to it, but they did, and I was ready to kill myself over it because I think this is the truth. When you make things, you really have to make things under the impression that the person that you're making them about is never going to hear it. So that's how I make everything. And I still believe that even after this happened to me and it rocked my foundations. So they listened to it and they listened to the whole thing.
They loved it.
Front to back. They loved it. But I was ready to put a bullet in my brain.
Because
some things were said. No, things were said. I said some things. Were they things that I would have said if I knew that they were going to listen to it? Absolutely not. Here's the thing. It's like, it was a rave review, but there were some personal comments that were made that I wouldn't have made.
But they thought it was hilarious.
They thought it was
funny, thank God.
They thought it was hilarious. And that is probably the first time in my life that I've ever like made something. And the person that I made it about actually like took the time to like sit and listen to it. And it reached me in a way. I'm being dead. Like, this is one of the most profound things that happened to me this year. I couldn't believe it. Like, I understand they're like underground, they're indie. This is not some big major act. They are to me. Like, this is like Beyonce level.
I was going to say, it's Beyonce to you. This is the Renaissance tour.
Beyonce was seen by me. Paige entered my DMs. You don't even know what that means. So that absolutely blew me away, and it like meant so much to me. One of the most important things that happened to me this year, and the reason that it was one of the most important things that happened to me this year is because this is literally, I almost, even including Tortured Poets, almost would put this at number 1, but I can't because it's a 9-song EP. I can't.
Yeah, there you go.
You can't in good conscience
they did that
do
to
it.
you.
But it doesn't even matter because it's front to back. I'm talking about track after track after track. And the thing about them being so interested in cinema, like that matters, and they named their band that way because like the way that they construct their songs is so deeply rooted in the visuals and the atmosphere that when you watch their music videos, you don't even really have to watch them because you know exactly what it's going to be because they have woven in the atmospheric visual into the song itself so seamlessly. You know exactly what's going on. You're like, I can see this behind my eyelids because that's the way that they craft their music. And also, it's worth it to note, I think they're releasing right before we started recording. I saw that I think they're releasing something new, and that has been on my mind this entire time, and I can't stop thinking about it. They're my muses. They are everything to me. What are the best songs? Well, let's get into it. You want to talk about the best songs? I'll tell you what the best songs are. So, track number 1, Tired Boy, greatest song ever made. Let's start there.
That is really the greatest song ever made. When I listened, because I had to listen to this, I gave the 2 tracks that I really highlighted that I loved were Tired Boy and Blonde. I thought those were sublime.
Sublime. TV Car Chase, the best song that has ever been made in the history of the universe. Softly.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
The
Another one of
best
the best
song that has
songs.
ever been made in the history of the universe. The only song that I don't like, this is literally front to back. Like, I'll listen to this song, but The Loneliness of the Long Flight Home, I don't care for Job. I don't care for Job. That's all I have to say about that. I love all my children equally, but I do not care for Job. Something about that one just doesn't tickle me the same as the others. But I've
Well,
been
it was a
having fantasies.
99.9% hit rate, so that's okay.
If I had to describe them in like simple terms, I would like make them a mix up of like probably the Smiths, the Cranberries, a little bit of Lana Del Rey, not much, but just like a sprinkle, you know, just a
Mhm.
little poop, and then probably The Cure. That's really like, and you can hear those references so clear. This was like cooked up in a lab to make me psychotic. That's how I'll phrase it to you.
This was one of the recs that Madeline sent that I was like least excited to listen to because I think that Sunday 1994 is a stupid name for a band, personally. I think it's weird. I mean, I get that it's like it's going to appeal to a certain kind of person. Madeline is that kind of person, so it boots for her. But when I went in to listen, I was really surprised by how good it was. And I was also surprised by how not like jarring it was to me because I don't like this kind of music. But I think it's because it's a girl singing. I like it. I love to hear a girly sing. And there is something pop melodically about the way that they write these songs. They're catchy. Tire Boy and Blonde are really catchy.
I just want you to know that there's a rage bubbling up inside me that is
I
unlike
know because I
anything
said I
I've
didn't
ever.
like the name of the band.
Why? I'm frothing at the mouth, but I'm gonna
Well,
let
I
you
listened. I
rock.
listened and I liked it.
That's what I thought. That's what I
Well,
thought. Listen, that's the thing. They're very approachable. Like they seem unapproachable, and that's kind of like this thing about them where it's like it's cool, and it's like
it
you
seems more
don't
pretentious
get
than it
it,
is.
and then
That's
it's
what
like
it
you
is.
get
It
into
seems
it,
more
and you're
pretentious
like,
than it is. It's easy to
oh.
access.
Well, Paige also, the thing that I really like about the band is really Paige's vocals.
Hmm.
Can you guys hear that? That hacking and hawing?
I heard a little teeny tiny bit of it.
Mason is like hacking up a lung, and he has been since he came home. I'm sorry about that, but anyway, Paige's vocals are really smooth and like crisp and emotive. I think that, I mean, hand in marriage soon, hand in
More
marriage
likely than you
anytime soon.
think.
More
Tonight,
likely than you
Queen.
think. And she was in my DMs. I have to repeat this. Paige was in my DMs. I want to be at the show. They've
Hmm.
been touring with Girl in Red. This has been the hardest week of
Uh,
my life.
you'll have to leave before Girl in Red comes on, but sure.
Well, I'm ferrying myself to the front. I say to everybody, hi, everybody at the front. I
Hmm.
don't care about Girl in
I will
Red.
leave.
Do you mind
I'll
if I
leave.
stand right here dead center for the opener that you don't know? And everybody would
They'll
be,
say yes.
okay. And
They'll
then
say
the next
yes.
thing you know, it's me and
Paige is
her.
there.
It's you and me. That's my whole
That's my
world.
whole world. Well, period.
Well, period.
Congratulations, Sunday 1994, for getting one of the most powerful fans in music to listen to your music.
That's me.
The Mad Lizard.
Yep.
Okay, so up next, I have, and I'm not going to go too in depth into this because I've talked about it ad nauseum at length. My album of the year. This is probably my number 2 album of the year, other than Torture Poets. This is Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande. It is my silly rabbit. Eternal Sunshine is my right hand arm man. I love this record. And I was not expecting to love it so much because I've been like Ariana Grande fan / neutral. I love Dangerous Woman. Every album after that has been kind of like, okay, I've liked certain things about her albums, but I haven't really like clicked with a full, I didn't consider her to be an albums artist, to be honest with you. And when I saw that this was a return to Max Martin and Ariana working together, I was like, well, yes. I mean, we have Break Free, we have Problem, we have all of the iconic hits that he's done with her before. But what was different about this was that Ariana is the sole writer on a lot of these songs, which is interesting because usually Max is demanding writing credits as well. We've heard that that is a contentious thing about the way he works. But for many of these songs, Ariana is a solo lyricist. And that really surprised me because if you look at the writing credits of something like Sweetener or My Everything, girl, we're talking 12 to 16 writers on a song. Like it was the factory. It was the Ariana Grande factory that they had her in, and she was changing one word in the songs. This has so much more agency and soul and heart. Also, Ariana was in like a bit of a tricky position, I would say, with the public coming back with this record because nobody wanted it and nobody wanted Ariana Grande. And it kind of got off to a bit of a false start with Yes and. She really wanted that to be her Shake It Off, but it wasn't. And it didn't, it's grown on me. But like as the intro to an era that she would go on to do 0 interviews about, she did maybe 2 interviews, but she like didn't promote it. There were no pre-release singles. It was Yes and then silence for months until Eternal Sunshine actually came out. So I wasn't expecting much. And then when I heard it, I was like, this is profound in ways that I think go over a lot of people's heads. And what I like about this is how simple it is and how restrained Ariana's vocal is, how intentional she is about her phrasing. And I think she picked up some tricks with doing Wicked, like on how to pronounce things in a more intelligible and clear way. And I think that she has a really interesting collaboration with Max Martin in that all their songs together sound like Ariana Grande songs. You know, they don't sound like Max Martin songs. They sound like songs that they made together, which I guess is the entire point. But the fact that she also wrote this in very like kind of isolation, she would work on it for a couple of months at a time with Max together, and then she would work on it by herself. And something that I love about Ariana is she's a really proficient studio artist. She knows how to use Pro Tools. She can arrange her own like vocal stacks. She really can do a lot of that legwork by herself. So that gives the album this insular feeling. You can tell that very few people touched it. And yeah, there are just tracks on this album that are so devastating and gorgeous to me. We Can't Be Friends, I Wish I Hated You is a noted favorite of mine. And I didn't know that Ariana, frankly, I wasn't aware of her game. I didn't know that she could write like that. Eternal Sunshine, the title track, is one of my favorite songs of the year. I love the concept of it. I thought that the visuals were really good. And it's been a triumphant year. It started out as a really bad year for Ariana Grande. And I think that this record turned things around for her.
I definitely think that this year has ended radically different than the year started for Ariana, which I think is one of the most, like you said, like a triumph of the year. At the start of the year, they were booing and they were hissing and they were throwing tomatoes. Now look at her. She got nominated for a Golden Globe. She had one of the biggest albums of the year. She got into the
Grammy
top 10
nominations
on the Rolling Stone.
2 number 1 hits.
Yeah, et cetera, et cetera. She has completely taken that narrative that people were writing about her and just kind of like flipping it on its head. And I find that something that's so interesting about the album is that it doesn't quite give into what people wanted it to be. She said it's going to be what I want it to be, and it's going to be the way that I want to tell the story, and you guys just kind of have to listen to that. And it's not going to be, you know, the drama that you want, but it is my truth, and that's what I'm going to do. And I think that as time went on, people really appreciated that more and more for what it was. And I think Eternal Sunshine kind of has ironically, it's having its moment in the sun, and I think Ariana is having her moment in the sun. And I think I've always really liked Ariana. I think that she is somebody who has unfortunately been on the receiving end of some very unfair things in the industry and in her personal life as well. So I've always kind of like, I've wanted her to succeed, and it's really nice to see her have this year that's like so like over the top. Like, you know, you dream about having a year like this, and that she got to be Glinda, which was like her dream role. By the way, I still haven't seen Wicked. Haven't had the time. I have to scroll past Instagram reels and TikToks.
Gravity.
I'd like the spoilers that I've had to like skip over. Like, I can't live this way anymore. I need to go. I'm trying to go this weekend, as in Thursday, Friday, but it's like I just don't know if I have the time.
You got to hold space, babe.
I got to hold space.
Get the space to hold.
I want to hold space for Ariana Grande. I want to hold space for Cynthia Erivo. I want to hold space for Defying Gravity. I do. So anyway, long story short, an amazing year for Ariana Grande, and I mean, we just love to see it. We like to see it.
Underrated song from this record, Bye. Incredible song. Incredible tune.
Probably my favorite one, incidentally. It's one so that good. I listen, like if I'm making a playlist, bye. Boy,
it's got a flow element to it. There's something, there is something kind of like 90s pop. It has that Max Martin late 90s pop, a little bit of R&B with Supernatural and True Story. That's another kind of like very 90s R&B song.
I love that productional moment in it. I think it's after the bridge where there's that big like almost like triumvirate like bum bum bum. That moment's like almost like show tuney, but like over the top.
It's glittery.
It's amazing. Max, you've done it again.
You've
You
done it
did
again.
it again.
I mean,
Raising the
she
bar for
did.
us all.
She did that. I'm saying she did that to Ariana. But yes, I've waxed about this album many times, so you can go see that elsewhere. But I had to give it a mention.
I think that this was a beautiful episode.
Mhm.
That's what I think. I think there were moments of profound love, moments of profound expressions of
There were
incredible
tears.
art that we have respected over the course of the year. It's kind of nice to be able to talk like this and to not put such like stringent like listicle on it. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I love a listicle, as everybody knows, but it's kind of nice to just be like, I don't know, I really liked it. Is it number 1? Is it number 2? Is it number 3? Who knows? But I listened to it and I liked it.
Well, we love to talk about all kinds of music. It's not just Taylor, you know. And this is Evolution of Snake podcast, but of course, you're always going to have Taylor. But I think part of what makes us good Taylor critics is that we are really in tune with what else is going on in the sphere of pop music beyond her, and it helps us appreciate her more.
Yes, absolutely. We are music
I also realized,
appreciators.
I don't know, did I do 5 albums or did I do 4? I don't know. But my other one was going to be Forever by Charli Bliss, but I don't have that much to say about it. So I think we can just skip that.
My other one is Big Ideas by Remy Wolf, which I love that record.
Wait, I listened to that and I was really surprised. I've been meaning to listen to it, but I listened to the first single and I feel like the single really, like the is it California?
Cinderella.
Cinderella. I was kind of like, man, I don't really like this. But
Oh,
Soup,
you gotta go deep. Soup is crazy.
Crazy. Toro
is the song of the year. Toro was the song of my summer. That the thing about that album, I mean, not to be like, I'm not gonna talk about it and then wax poetic. I'm just gonna say one quick thing. I haven't been listening to it recently because it's so summer. It is fun in the sun. It is, I got my roller skates on. It is, I have a cocktail. I'm letting loose. Like I'm putting it all out there. I got my bikini on, etc., etc. I love it. It's like a joyful album to me. Not that every single song on it is sunshine and daisies, but like I love it. It is a really, really good record.
There's an
Remy
energy to that record that is really good. And I've been looking, we've talked a couple of times about like, I love pop rock is what I've realized, especially after I went to the Guts tour. I was like, now I need to be getting more into this. Where else can I find it? So I found a couple of Rachel Chinariri songs that I like. It doesn't quite go as hard as I would like it to. Remy Wolf is exactly what I've been needing.
Oh, she's out there. She is pulling inspiration from disco, funk, rock. She's popping. She's rocking.
She's incredible.
She's doing everything.
Between
she's
her
incredible.
and Charli Bliss, I'm getting my fill.
I love that.
Back There Now, Song of the Year. Let's also just say that.
Many people are saying this. I was surprised at how high up it was on the Rolling Stone Top 100 album list. I was like, they're listening to it.
That list is crazy. That list is really crazy.
That list is really crazy.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into the Evolution of Snake. Don't forget to go to evolutionofsnake.com to get tickets to our live show, the Snares Tour. Tickets are going fast, so you better get them.
You better get them while they're hot. You better get them while they're hot.